This is Kuruzo-cho, where I grew up. I would like to share with you the strange events that took place here. Kirie Goshima. Hi, hello, and welcome again, everybody, to another episode of Natural Juan. Sorry for the long break, everybody, but I recently came down with the flu and had to take it easy for a while. This time around, we're going to discuss one of Junji Ito's masterpieces, Uzumaki, which is quite probably one of his most well-received works. Before all that though, I'd like to invite you all to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications. Also, special shout out to Mr. Jonathan Green, my patron in Patreon. If you would also like to support my channel and what I do here, you can check out my Patreon information in the description below, which includes Gcash and PayPal info as well, in case you'd just like to make a quick and easy donation. With all that out of the way, it's time for us to take a deep dive into the downward spiral of horror and insanity that is Junji Ito's Uzumaki. First and foremost, let me be abundantly clear that, despite the title, this manga has nothing to do with the protagonist of Naruto, even if his surname is the same. Second is that it also has nothing to do with the Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann anime, even if the power the characters use there is called spiral energy. Third and last is that while this manga proved popular enough to get a live-action film adaptation, I'll only be discussing the manga as the movie deviates from its source material, and I haven't seen it yet either. Anyway, to cut to the chase, Uzumaki is a 3-volume manga that talks about the strange happenings in a small Japanese town called Kuruzo-cho. We see all this unfold before us through the eyes of an otherwise ordinary girl named Kirie Goshima, who also serves as our narrator throughout all the horrific events that take place in the small town. As mentioned, Kirie is pretty much your typical high school student, and while she might be equipped to deal with the troubles of being a Japanese teenager, she is woefully unprepared for the evil that is slowly consuming her hometown and the people in it. It all begins simple enough, with Kirie overlooking Kuruzo-cho at dusk, and notices multiple dust devils, or mini-tornadoes, whirling about. She then meets her boyfriend, Suichi Saito, who clearly looks troubled, and invites her to elope with him and escape the town they live in. It is then revealed to us that Suichi is somewhat psychic in nature, and senses the oncoming calamities that will befall their hometown. That said, Kirie refuses to believe him, and instead just assumes that some sort of psychological disorder is affecting his mind. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is when our story begins proper. If you were to ask me if Kirie had just chosen to go with her boyfriend then and there, she could have easily avoided a lot of the problems that would plague her later on. Also, if she had left in the first place, maybe others would have been inspired to leave as well, saving them from whatever curse had been festering in the town. Heck, while I don't support the idea of elopement, and I doubt Kirie and Suichi's life on their own would have been easy, it would have been preferable over the horrors they would experience later on. Of course, all that is just my opinion as a reader, and, I must admit, we wouldn't have a story at all if Kirie had done that. The weirdness begins when Kirie spots Suichi's father taking pictures of a snail in an alleyway. Later, the man discusses that he has found an interest in spirals, and that he has been collecting spiral objects, including pictures of snails, as a kind of bizarre hobby. However, Suichi soon reveals that it is more than just a hobby for his father, and has become more of a deranged obsession. It had gotten to the point that Suichi's father had begun compulsively hoarding things. Things like springs, mosquito coils, spiral pattern clocks, screws, and other objects regardless of size into their home. It becomes so awful that Suichi's mother disposes of her husband's strange collection, which leads to a rather disturbing confrontation. Finally, in a fit of rage and rebellion against his own family, Suichi's father commits a bizarre form of suicide by contorting his body and breaking his own spine. After his father's death, Suichi's life is further worsened when it is his mother's turn to lose her mind to the spiral. However, instead of becoming obsessed with spirals like his father, she gains a phobic aversion to them, becoming distressed at just seeing a spiral pattern in anything. It gets to the point where she literally cuts out her own fingerprints from her own fingers because of their spiral pattern. To make matters even worse, she even manages to stab her own ears in a gruesome manner when she discovers the spiral cochlea found in the inner ear. Finally, his mother dies in misery after constantly having nightmares where she sees the contorted body of her husband inviting her to join him in death within the spiral. As if that's not enough, a more insidious effects take place when Kirie's father discovers his own hobby of pottery. That said, while it does not seem to be as bad as Shuichi's father's obsession with spirals, it soon becomes clear that it too is leading the old man down a darker path, as the patterns of his work take on surreal and disturbing patterns. This is because the clay he uses to make his pots come from a nearby pond where the ashes of cremated dead often gather. This becomes even worse when it is later revealed that the souls of Shuichi's parents are actually trapped within the various vases and pottery that Kirie's father creates. It is only when her father's oven or furnace is destroyed that the soul of Shuichi's parents are freed and Kirie's father returns to some semblance of sanity. And these are just some of the beginning chapters of Junji Ito's Uzumaki. They go from having to escape horrible places, such as the local lighthouse whose lens is warped into a spiral shape, to the various announcement megaphones all over the town that let out a disturbing sound that have a spiral nature. Then there's a lot of Junji Ito's signature biological horror, wherein people's bodies are transformed into awful and grotesque shapes, which almost always come in a spiral shape. There are the people who transform into giant, disgusting snails. There is the pretty schoolgirl whose birthmark becomes a spiraling, miniaturized black hole. There's also a narcissistic girl whose hair comes alive and drains her life force. And there's the people whose bodies distort and contort together into entwining spirals. Devastating typhoons that seem to possess a terrible sentience ravage the land and homes of the townsfolk, and that's just some of the few horrific incidents I can remember from reading the manga during late evenings. Now, had Kirie just gone with Shuichi, perhaps there would have been hope, but her refusal to do so has led her and her family into even more horror and madness. Time itself becomes uncertain within the town, and some days are longer than nights, but some nights become longer than days. Simply jumping or waving one's arms around causes powerful tornadoes to form around them. Worse, when rescuers try to come in through the sea, vast maelstroms or whirlpools form in the water, destroying any vessels that come close to Kuruzo-cho. And when people try to escape through the tunnels in the mountains surrounding the town, the would-be escapees find themselves lost in underground and horrific places. It is then revealed that somewhere beneath the town, an ancient spiral structure has stood for eons. It is unknown what the vast and sprawling labyrinth beneath Kuruzo-cho is or who built it, but it is soon hinted that it is somehow alive. And not just simply alive, mind you. It becomes abundantly clear that whatever dwells in the depths of the town is both malevolent and petty, and has been causing these disasters and tragedies since time immemorial. All in all, if you're into the small-town horror, first fully imagined by H.P. Lovecraft, and then later popularized by Stephen King, then this might just be the manga for you. That said, be prepared for a real scare, as this story kept me up for quite a while. It will also make you view just about anything you see with a spiral pattern with suspicion. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Natural Juan. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications. Also, if you'd like to support me and what I do here, you can check out my Patreon information in the description below, where you'll also find a PayPal and Gcash account for making quick and easy donations. Natural Juan out.